Hey guys, welcome to RC Fantasy. I'm Mazda. This video is about this cutie lunchbox. I'm gonna show you my top 6 recommendation for a casual modification of lunchbox. Actually, I'm gonna start with number 1 first because it's no-brainer. It's very obvious. That's ball bearings. So it's not just this car, but any other Tamiya, no matter which model you have, you gotta put ball bearing, not the plastic bearing. That'll, make it last longer and make it faster and smoother. So yeah, that's for sure. Ball bearing. Number 2 is CVA shocks. This oil-filled shocks instead of the pogo stick. The pogo stick that comes with the kit doesn't absorb the shock at all. It keeps like bouncing, right? You're totally fine with stock pogo stick if you wanna just bouncing around. That's totally fine. But on mine, I put the oil-filled shocks and it runs pretty good. So it's also highly recommended. And number 3 is this shock tower brace. This thing. So without this bar, this chassis flexes so much. You can really see it moves inward when you push the shocks. So yeah, I think this car really needs a brace on the front. But on the rear, I don't really think you need a brace because it has a little more structural strength, feels more rigid on the rear. So I don't think you really need a brace on the back. You're totally fine without it. And number 4, that's a rear third shock or some kind of brace on the pivot, swing pivot right here. So a lot of people put some kind of shock on here, make some hole on the swing shaft right here, and connect one side of the shock and put some bracket on the chassis and connect it. And I used to have a shock on here, but I changed it to just a rod because it's simpler and it works just fine. But you have to be careful if you put this kind of rod instead of the shock. Shock length can change, because it strokes. But this simple rod doesn't change the length at all. So you have to have it in the middle of the stroke right here. If not, it wouldn't roll. It has to roll. So yeah, it's fixed in the middle of the stroke on rolling action. So it avoids the gearbox slap. Without this kind of mod, basically your whole gearbox kind of slaps on the front pivot because it's basically supported by super tiny springs. The spring you can kind of see here. If you have this kind of brace, it avoids the slap, so it's highly recommended also. Number 5 is a sports motor. This is basically for making a wheelie. On the stock motor, you have to back it up to make a wheelie. Without doing it, it's hard to make a wheelie. It just, goes forward. But if you change your motor to sport motor or some motor that's slightly faster than the stock motor, you can make a wheelie from standstill. So it's also very recommended, and it makes a big difference because this car is all about making a wheelie. So yeah, making a wheelie easier is the right thing to do, I think. Number 6 is the front suspension double wishbone arms. So the Lunchbox front suspension is just like Grasshopper. It just swings. So the camber changes a lot, and not just camber, but it also changes the toe angle too. So when you go over a gap, basically your tire tries to go inward, and that's called bump steer. And yeah, this modification basically avoids that. And also Lunchbox body, if you don't have the double wishbone setup, your tire can easily hit the body. But if you have it, it doesn't hit the body because the tire goes straight up instead of swinging inward. It prevents to hit the body. So it's not for everybody, I guess, because it's not really expensive. I bought this kit off eBay for 20 something bucks total, so it's not expensive at all, but it's more hassle to do it. You have a lower arm and the C-hub in the kit, but you also have to get upper arm, like some kind of like turnbuckle, and you have to make a hole on the chassis on here. It's kind of hidden to mount the upper arm. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And you have a pretty decent double wishbone arm setup, and yeah, it runs so much better because on the stock, when it's accelerating, your front tire has really big positive camber, and when you're on the brake or landing, you have a really strong negative camber. So it kind of messes up the handling. But with this, the tire stays pretty vertical-ish, so the handling is so much more predictable and less frustration. I think the part of the charm of Lunchbox is this crazy unpredictable driving experience, but also it can be sometimes frustrating, especially when the tire hits the body all the time, and when you have to hear the gearbox slaps all the time. So those stuff, I don't want to have it, so I gave my Lunchbox these mods, and I'm super happy with it. So yeah, I totally recommend all of these mods I made for my car, and yeah, these are all pretty reasonable, so maybe you can think about it. Hopefully this helps somebody. If you think it's helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, please.